apartment, bedbug control and prevention, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the daily edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, here every day discussing all things pest. We're going to be discussing apartment bedbug control and prevention. Now, before you stop laughing, I want you to take this seriously because we're going to be discussing some things that we haven't discussed on the podcast before. And we're going to find out the biggest problems that we have in trying to deal with bedbug services, and for those who wanting to get into bedbug service for multi-unit, because that's really where most of the problems are in multi-units. I get at least 1 to 2 calls a week on apartment multi-unit bedbug control, and most I turn down. And I'm going to tell you why I turn down just about every single one of them. But before that, I want to go ahead and just remind everybody to go ahead and look us up at pestgeekpodcast.com. Go on the web. Also, Facebook group. We have the Pest Geek Podcast listeners group, and that group is specifically for people who want to comment, want to share, and want to talk about what's going on the podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to contribute, you can go ahead and do that via the group. Also, you can just check us out, like the Facebook page on Facebook. And if you go to the website, by the way, you ever want to call in on the show, give a shout out, talk about something that you want to discuss that we discussed on the podcast, and you want to do an audio, you can call in and leave a recorded message. It's 24/7. You can always call from anywhere and leave a message there for us, and then we can use that on the air if you want to go ahead and leave your information. Also, check us out on YouTube. We got a YouTube channel. Without further ado, the biggest challenge that we have in apartment bed control is the time that it takes to inspect, confirm, prepare a proposal, submit it, wait for a confirmation, prep for the service, get the client to, if they're going to be prepping, to prep correctly, dealing with the clutter that sometimes comes along with the bedbug control service. Usually it's apartments that are in lower income. Usually there's a lot of clutter. There's hoarding going on. A lot of the times there is physical problems with people being sick and not being able to deal with the problem. A lot of the times there are mental issues involved. So it's more bedbug control is a socio-economic problem. It's not like ant problems. It's not sometimes like a roach problem, although they tend to be about the roach control, German roach control in multi-unit and bed bugs. The problems and the common problems that link them together go hand in hand. A lot of people don't want to do multi-unit pest control because it's mostly a pricing game. It's the lowest price wins. You can't compete on this with the big guys, focusing only on volume. And you're competing with, the last 3 years of pricing, and all these issues play. But bedbug is not one of those things that, contrary to what the industry believes, and I'm talking about the apartment industry, that this is something that you can control and maintain with regular pest control. It can't be done. It is a highly specialized service. It is a service that has to be done and prevented. But for some reason, people that are in the industry, in the apartment industry, who are leasing agents, who are, CMs, who are maintenance managers. They have no clue of what really is happening with this. There is a huge disconnect. There is a huge chasm between the people who know how to do this correctly, between the landlords, the building owners, building managers, the apartment industry, and the tenants. People really don't know. And it's shocking because there's people in the pest control industry that don't know how to properly deal with inspection, identification, prevention, and control and management of bed bugs. It is shocking to see how many people really don't know how to properly deal with this. And the number one reason why we have such a big problem in the bed bug control business is there is a blame game going on. The managers of buildings and apartments are blaming the residents for being careless, for bringing in bed bugs, for not reporting it, for, dealing with all the issues associated with this problem. The way the industry has chosen to deal with the problem is through basically legalese, having what are known as bed bug addendums to their leases, to remove the liability from themselves and put it on the tenants. The tenants who have no clue of how to prevent or even how they got bed bugs to begin with, will not report it and not deal with this properly because of two main reasons. Number one is the shame and the stigma that comes with having a bed bug, that somehow you are living a lifestyle that you shouldn't be, you were somewhere you shouldn't have been, you did something you shouldn't have, you're dirty, and so therefore you're not going to report it. By the time you report it, it is so far out of control in an apartment building that multiple units are now infested. And what the industry does is basically say, well, we just have an addendum. You are now responsible for bed bug infestation. The question is proving where was the point source? Who brought it in? Who started it? So you're not reporting it because you don't want to be labeled, because in that addendum, there is things like, well, your furniture will be thrown out. We will cancel your lease. You will be responsible for paying every bit of damage, for controlling it if it spreads through the building. So if there's 6 units and it's a $2,000, $3,000 bill, you're responsible for it. You imagine somebody throws away your $2,000 bed or says you have to throw it out because you got bed bugs, and the pest control company that is doing our pest control, which is charging us $1 to $3 a unit to do roach control. They don't even do that very well. And they're saying there's no way we can actually control everything's got to be thrown out because we can't really control it. You're not going to pay $600 a unit to treat every inch of furniture in that unit that might be infested. We got a big problem on our hands because we're the ones that take the training. We're the ones that know how to solve this problem. And we're the ones that have to face it, and nobody's listening to us. Nobody is listening to what has to be done in order to prevent it, in order to identify it, in order to really control it. The other big problem that we have is that if somebody does get bed bugs, guess what? most of the time we have to inspect adjoining units, surrounding units, the ones on top, the one on bottom, the one on the sides. And either the building managers won't pay for that additional inspection, or the tenants will not allow their units to be inspected because they're afraid, and they already know they've already spotted bed bugs, or they're afraid if bed bugs are found because of that addendum, they're going to be held responsible. Therefore, nobody's really going to voluntarily report anything. And therefore, by the time we get there, the problem is very severe. On top of that, there's threats of fees and fines that will be attached. So the biggest problem the industry has is the not reporting it, and not reporting it on time, not reporting it quickly. And you know, the problem with legalese is people don't learn anything from government. Government passes all kinds of laws all the time that nobody either enforces, or nobody really, or people break it all the time and nobody cares. Because you can't solve this problem through enforcement. The real solution is for landlords to have real policies in place of real inspection. So the solution for the apartment building industry is really training and education. Here's the problem. We go to conferences and they tell us, well, you need to really educate your client. Okay. 90% of my job is educating my client. Here is the problem with that scenario. The large companies, when somebody teaches at a conference, it's a mixed bag. You got people with large companies who work for large companies there. You have people who are, multi-unit, multi-route businesses, doing $1 million a year. And then you have the independent guy who has a client that they're doing apartment buildings, but the client, it requires a lot of training and a lot of education, and we're already wearing 5 hats. Okay. So the guys that really take the time to do this, educate and train, don't have the time to do it. The large companies who have the time and the resources to do it are too busy making just the numbers. It's all about the numbers. The medium-sized companies can do it. But that is an expensive proposition to put on any company, regardless of the size, because it requires a lot of training and education. It isn't just a simple explanation on how to do it. So the educators who are, at the universities and at the extension services and all this say, the public must be educated. The public must be educated. These landlords must be educated. They go to conferences too. They have associations and they have conferences. And there's no real training going on from the conference's perspective. So the information is there. Everybody says they should teach it. Nobody's teaching it. Nobody's doing it. So the education is really not getting to the people that really need it. The tenants, the people on the ground, the maintenance managers, the people who are doing the leasing, the leasing agents, the general managers, the property managers. They're not properly trained either. So the entomologist perfected just train them. Well, that's easier said than done. That's the biggest challenge we have. And if they're not willing to take the training, they're not willing to pay for the training, the associations that are involved are not willing to pay someone, an expert, to come in and do the training as part of their meetings, it isn't going to get done. So we cannot be focused on how do we do this intensive training that they don't want to listen to, because what it's going to come down to is taking responsibility that you have to pay for this epidemic. And whether it's in higher rents or whatever it is, it's going to get passed down to the consumer. I deal with a lot of HOAs, homeowners associations for condos. And what they're touting about is how they reduce their prices every year so they don't have to keep increasing the member fees. So every year they just fire their companies. I mean, that's a common practice, to fire the company every year because you know that price increase is coming, and then you'll just hire another company that'll do it for the same price. It's a big problem. Proper treatment. Let's get into proper treatment. The biggest challenge that we have is convincing the owners of what proper treatment needs to be done per unit to control the problem. Here is the misconception by community managers, landlords. We're paying for quarterly and monthly preventive sprays for this. Our pest control service, you can't have bed bugs because we have a quarterly pest control service. You can't. The total denial. How many calls I get with people saying no? They're saying nobody has bed bugs. They can't because they have a pest control service. Here's the harsh reality of what goes on in the industry. The average apartment building is paying between $1 and $3 per unit per month to service. The average pest control service that is spent in a unit is 1 to 3 minutes on average. I don't know what false assumption you're under, thinking that you have pest control that's going to cover bed bugs and treat for bed bugs because they're spraying a baseboard. What are you going to do when that pest is actually on the ceiling in a lamp that is behind a headboard on the bed frame? It's already on the bed. A baseboard spray service isn't going to solve that problem. Well, we're doing mandatory housekeeping checks. Okay. Our maintenance manager does inspection of every unit every quarter or every 6 months. Let me ask you this. What training did the housekeeping manager or the maintenance manager or the CM or whoever is doing these unit inspections to check for bed bugs? Are they pulling back the sheets on every bed and going in there with a flashlight and know how to detect a bed bug? Or are they just walking into the unit, making sure the doors are all in place, the filters are clean, and the unit is not dirty, and then saying, you really need to clean your unit because it's dirty, and assuming that dirty is equivalent to bed bug problems? Because it has nothing to do with being clean or being dirty. The bed bug doesn't come in a unit, or a person doesn't bring it on their body because they're dirty. They're bringing it on their body and they're bringing it into the unit because of something that was brought in, or either on their body. They could have gotten it at work from somebody else who had a bed bug who gave it to them. They could have gotten it from the laundry room when they put their clothes on the floor and a person that had bed bugs had put their clothes on the same area and the bed bugs just went on their laundry after they were cleaned. Were your laundry rooms inspected? The common areas inspected? Did the lint tray get inspected on that dryer? How do you know? So you have untrained people doing inspections for something they don't know what they're looking for, assuming that if the unit is clean and it's immaculate, there shouldn't be bed bugs. Assuming that if you're paying for pest control, there shouldn't be bed bugs. Well, we have, furniture checks before people move in. Who's trained to do it? See, here's the problem. You've got an addendum, an amendment put in for bed bugs. And you're saying that somebody inspected that unit and the tenant needs to certify that they don't have bed bugs before they move in. Here's the problem with that scenario. Who certified that unit did not have bed bugs? Who did the inspection? Was it a pest control company with experience in bed bugs? Or a pest control company that did your spraying and said, yeah, we didn't see any bed bugs? How thorough of an inspection was done? So that is going to get challenged if you ever have a tenant go to court. It's not going to hold any water. Here's the third problem. By the time we get there, self-treatment has already taken place and made it worse. And the chances are they've been self-medicating for 6 months to a year. Every call that I get on bed bugs, I hear the same thing. We've been trying everything. We've bought every bomb, every fogger. We've bought every spray. We've sprayed the bed. We sprayed the mattress. We tried everything to fix this problem. And it's getting worse. The second thing I hear is, the manager's already paid for them to spray 3 times. That's what I hear on a daily basis when I pick up bed bug calls, which is at least anywhere between 1 to 5 a week that we get a call. So we have to really do something about this in the industry, because that's the problems that we're really dealing with. It has nothing to do with chemical. It has nothing to do with procedure. Look, I've already, if you use chemical to solve bed bug problems, that's fine. If you use heat and vacuum, it's fine. If you use heat alone, it's still going to cost about the same thing no matter which way you slice that bread. It's still the same problem. Has nothing to do with technique, whether we're using vacuum and steam or whether we're using all chem. You use all chem, you're going to come back 3 times to retreat. You use steam and vacuum, I'll spend 3 to 4 hours per room doing crack and crevice, and I will still have to come back and inspect in 14 days. And I'll still have to probably do another follow-up inspection to make sure in another 14 days. If you use heat, you're still going to spend about $600, to $2,000 for a house. It doesn't matter which way you cut it. The work is still hard. It still requires expertise. It still requires expensive equipment. It's not an easy fix. And people have no clue how difficult this really is to do. The problem is what I've outlined. That's the real problem in bedbug, solving the bedbug issue. It's how we're dealing with it. What if you leave, the dumpster with furniture and somebody picks it up? Those are the things that you can do to help prevent it. But really, there has to be a professional service that you pay for on a monthly basis for some type of monitoring, having access to every unit. At the first sign that every unit around it must be inspected, paying for those inspections, paying for a dog to come in and sniff, paying for a professional to come in and look at the first sign. When you're paying $1 to $3 a unit, when the average service takes 1 to 3 minutes, if tops, it takes 5 for really, problem units, there is no time to do a bed bug inspection. You ain't doing a bed bug inspection in 10, 15 minutes. You're going to spend 30 minutes to an hour doing a bed bug inspection. It could cost you anywhere between, $65 and $125 per unit. that you're suspecting of a bed bug problem to do a bed bug inspection. Folks, I thank you for the time. I thank you for listening. Hey, I will see you again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.